hold on.
Yeah.
There it is. Let me see. Check on it.
Yeah, I think we're
Okay.
good.
My name's Jeff Goldberg from Fish 307, and tonight we're going to have our another seminar with Matt Belmore, Bass Fishing for Beginners. Matt's done several seminars for us over the last few months. They're always excellent. Everybody loves them. Matt is, we'll just say he is a professional back of the boat tournament bass angler, and his knowledge is beyond imagination, and his abilities are there too. He does great, wins tournaments, all kinds of stuff, but from the back of the boat, which is very, very difficult. So to learn for beginners on techniques and things to do and knots to tie and things like that is a real treat from Matt. And so, Matt, I'd like to thank you again.
Thank you,
for
Jeff.
doing this.
Thank you.
And
enjoy it.
Anybody has any questions during the program, please at any time type in your question. We have Eric, our most awesome guy behind the computer and the camera here, taking care of everything, and he will get the thing out to Matt. Okay, and Matt,
do my best, Dan.
Ask you repeat the question so everybody can hear it, and then we'll get the answers. And same for you guys out here. So super duper. Look forward to enjoying your presentation tonight. So, do you need anything? Do you have any baits you used to bring in or anything?
Yeah,
like
I brought some stuff here. I think I'm covered.
He's got his spinning rod with him. Perfect.
Brought some.
Okay.
Yep.
So thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
And look forward to hearing it.
All right. All right. Beginner bass. It's kind of an exciting topic, especially for anybody that's just beginning and they're going to get into it. The first bass, big bass, is really going to charge you up. So I'm going to start off the bass. The bass. All right. Largemouth, smallmouth, spotted bass are the three that are mostly going to apply to any of us, unless you're going to. I mean, spotted bass aren't really up here, so the further down south you go, you're gonna start seeing spotted bass. The differences between largemouth is most tolerant to warm water. They don't handle cold water too well, although they do just fine up here in the North Country. They will make you. Smallmouths, they thrive in cooler, deeper bodies of water. That's where they seem to be the most comfortable, although you do see them in certain times of the year very shallow. They'll move up, especially spawning season. You'll see those guys all over the place. A lot of fun to catch. Spotted bass, they're really similar to a largemouth. You're going to see that obviously in the picture. The difference you're going to see most of the time in the spotted bass is the lower jaw line is even with the eye or set forward just a little bit, where you see in the largemouth it's set behind the eye. But most of you guys aren't going to have to worry about this little guy here. The largemouth is the biggest of the three species. Even though through the years, largemouths up in this neck of the woods, especially the St. Lawrence River, Champlain, Oneida, Cayuga, they have been getting giant. And you can stumble across 7 and 8 pounders at St. Lawrence River in Ontario and stuff. So, especially Cayuga. So they get big too. Spots don't normally get that big. You'll see those about 3 pounds is about average, but they can get bigger. All right. So that's what you're looking to catch. This is what we're looking to catch. Rods and reels. Now, this can be a touchy subject for some, but this is kind of self-explanatory in a way.
Touchy because of preferences.
Here, let's go back because now that I'm reading this, I kind of got sidetracked here. But with the bass, let's talk about more. Yeah, brought some notes this time. They are a predatory fish, ambush predator. Basically, they live for two things, and that's to feed and that is to reproduce. And they are good at both.
Doesn't sound like a bad life.
No. I mean, that's a pretty good life, you know? That's a pretty good life. Yeah, no complaints there. But they have to deal with plenty of other things that it wouldn't make life so pleasant. So they live to feed and reproduce. They are very fast. They're strong, but they're not very intelligent. Although they seem pretty intelligent at times, and that's most of the time because of the pressure and the time of year that we seem like they're really smart. But um, they're hardwired to survive. Okay, so they're in tune with a lot of things that are going around, and they react to that almost instantly. So, and some of those things are like
Nice.
pressure
You just got these.
systems,
Very cool.
sunlight, wind, water clarity, water level, current, lunar phases. It's all these things can make them change, uh, not only day by day but hour by hour. So um, it very well could be a possibility that the fish are there but just not biting at that time, or the fish aren't there but at a certain time they will be there. And you'll hear a lot of people talking about a lot of the times fishing is about timing, which that is true to a certain extent. That definitely holds true. So don't get discouraged right away because it might be about timing. You might not be there at the right time. So don't get discouraged. Keep fishing. Keep fishing. You'll end up, after spending enough time at one place, you'll end up figuring out, well, the bite's better in the morning than it is in the afternoon. So we'll wait. We'll hit up in the morning. Well, we won't bother fishing at night, and then we'll come back in the morning and do it again. So get home early and uh, get on the water early. So, okay. Rods and reels. Now, there is tons of different options. It is overwhelming, beyond overwhelming. Um, the amount of money that you can spend on rods and reels these days is astronomical, to the point where you can spend $300-400 on a reel, no problem. And the rods are the same way, very, very expensive. Um, I wouldn't suggest doing that right off the bat. I would wait a little while before you spend that kind of money. I would choose something a little bit more in your price range, because it can get pretty crazy until you really know that you love bass fishing. You're going to be into it. You're going to do it a lot. Don't spend the money on something crazy yet. Get good with what you have first. Bait caster. They see that, Eric?
Yes, sir.
Bait caster. It's on the top of your rod, not on the bottom. Like the top of your rod here. They come in right and left-handed, but they not like spinning reels. Spinning reels, most spinning reels, you can switch from left to right. On this, it comes fixed. It's either left-handed or right-handed. So the positives about a bait caster: control, accuracy, versatility. Uh, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat a bait caster. It really is. Almost all presentations um, in bass fishing can be made with this bait caster right here. Um, this is actually a combo that we sell right here at Fish 307. Um, I've used this. This is my fourth season now with this stick here. This is this is a favorite balance. I'm really, really hard on my stuff here, so the fact that it's made it that many years is pretty astonishing to me. But when you first got these were about $100. Now you can get these for around
Wow.
$50. And this is a 7-foot medium heavy action fast tip. And with this rod, um, this one runs a little light, but medium heavy, 7 foot fast action rod will get it done. The only thing that I wouldn't feel confident throwing on this rod would be a frog and 65-pound braid. I wouldn't do that, but it can handle just about anything else. I can chuck a jig on this. I can throw a Carolina rig. I can throw a spinner bait. I can throw chatterbait. I wouldn't chuck a huge glide bait either, but this can handle just about anything and is very, very good for a beginner. Very good. This is a bait caster. Spinning rod. People, I see this a lot, especially with beginners and stuff. The spinning rod's meant to be held like this. And you see a lot of people on TV or inexperienced people, and they're actually holding it like this.
It
And
just
they're
seems so awkward.
right, and they're reeling it backwards. It is, but you see it. You see it a lot. You see it a lot, and I think that's because in the beginning, when we all first started, it was like with a Zebco, and the reel was
Oh,
on
yeah,
top,
yeah.
and your eyelets were on top with those. But so I think that's kind of where it gets kind of screwed up sometimes. But everybody, it belongs on the bottom.
Just seems so much more natural like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it throws the balance way off when it's like this. I just don't understand how people, but it happens a lot. So that's if you're doing that, that's not what you're supposed to do. Anyway, but um, this is a 7 foot uh, medium heavy action fast tip. Actually, it's a moderate tip. This is a moderate. Um, this is just a good all around rod. This not for heavy applications. I do not use this for heavy applications.
What do you mean by heavy application?
I do not throw a spinner bait on this. I do
Okay.
not throw a crankbait on this. I do not throw a rattle trap. I don't throw a Texas rig. Um, I'm using this for finesse. Um, so most of the time it's with braid and a fluorocarbon leader. Um, and it was something like this. This is a Ned rig. So a spinning rod's perfect for stuff like this. Little stuff, little hair jigs. I would I if I was going to start out, I wouldn't start out. I recommend if you're going to start bass fishing, you're going to get into it. I recommend baitcaster.
Really? You think a bait catch to start with?
Yes, I don't think they're harder to use. I think they might take a little bit more time to get used to, but then when you get used to it, you'll never want to pick up another spinning rod. You'll never do it again. Like I like when I go to a tournament and I know that I'm gonna need a spinning rod every time I'm pulling my hair out because I know what I'm gonna deal with the rest of the day. And because being in the back of the boat, I don't have much space. And what's wrong is with these spinning rods, when you get enough of them, there's a lot of space in between these eye guides here. So when your rods are bouncing all around, you get numerous rods. One's caught up in here. And when you have 5 or 6 rods, it takes no time before you have a huge piled mess full of your spinning rods. Um, they get caught on everything. So if I don't have to throw it, I won't. But I recommend a bait caster because you can do anything with it. Um, if I needed to, I can drop shot with a bait caster. That's no problem. I can throw a Ned rig with a bait caster. That's no problem. I can throw a hair jig with a bait caster. That's no problem. Depends on your application. So bait caster is what I recommend. Um, but those are the differences between the two. Now, the rod, I'll go over the reel after the rod. Length, power, action. Most of them you'll see Eric, all of them are printed. All of them are printed either somewhere on the rod, and it is going to give you the length. It is going to give you a lure weight, and it's going to give you your line weight, which is this one's from 12 to 20 pounds, and then it's going to give you an action. And there's different actions like fast action, moderate, low. So those are all things you want to uh, take in account. But a lot of it depends on presentation, and that's why I'm saying this 7 foot medium heavy is good for just about anything. That will get you started off. That'll get you started off. Again, we were talking about like price ranges. Um, Rods can get out of control. That's why I kind of brought this one, because this one's relatively cheap here. This is the favorite balance. We sell them right here at fish307.com. I've had this for 4 years. Incredibly light. I've caught hundreds upon hundreds of fish on this. Hasn't let me down yet. So
That's your bait casting reel, right?
yeah, this is one of my
Or
bait
rod, sorry.
casters. Yep, one of my bait casters. Here, check that out. Yeah, yeah, yep.
The eyelets on these things are so tiny.
Yeah, that's meant basically for accuracy, but yep, they are. The bait casters, most of the bait casters are like that nowadays. Not those are called micro guides. Not all, but you see it quite a bit. Now this has got the same thing. Also, all of them are going to have this. They're all going to have your printed actions and everything.
Gotcha.
So you'll be able to tell what you're getting into. But to start with, 7 foot medium heavy action, fast action tip. Should get it done for just about anything. The reel. We discussed it a little bit. It's either left-handed or right-handed. There is no moving it over here. So it's only right-handed or left-handed, not like a spinning reel where you can switch it to either side. Accurate. The drag's different than your spinning reel. This is like a smooth, it doesn't tick or anything. It's more of a smooth, but the more expensive reel that you get, the better the drag feels. It's kind of hard to explain without actually. But this reel here, this is the Daiwa Fugo, which we actually sell here too, and that's why another reason why I brought this. This is relatively inexpensive, and it's been an awesome reel. I actually bought this reel at the same time as I bought that rod. This is a Daiwa Fugo. This is an 8-to-1, and I didn't bring my other one, but I recommend something around a 6-4-to-1, maybe a 7-to-1.
What's that mean?
It's your gear ratio. So with every one turn of your handle, okay, say if it's a 7-to-1, so with one turn of the handle, your spool reels 7 times. It spins 7 times. So by recommending a 6-4-to-1, that's like an intermediate. 6-4-to-1 would be one crank gets 6.4 turns out of your spool. So the higher that is, like a 10-to-1 or something like that, is more line it picks up per turn. Per turn. So 6-4-to-1, 7-to-1 is probably what you want to start out with. This Fugo, it's smooth, it's cheap. This is going to be a little less than $100, and it's a solid reel. I mean, I beat the crap out of it. I beat the snot out of these things. I mean, I absolutely beat the heck out of them, and they're ready for another season. They're ready for another season. A good setup This setup, so between 50 and 100, that setup's going to cost you around $150, and a halfway decent setup's going to cost you around that.
That's not bad.
No, that's not bad. That's not that bad. You can buy combos. Obviously, we have combos here. This is just stuff that I personally have, but this is a great little reel for the price. So brand, stick to a name brand only because you're gonna notice it in your casting, in your casting, and you're gonna notice it in play. It's when you pick up a Daiwa or Shimano, and then you pick up a lower brand. I'm not going to put any names out there, but if you can pick up a Shimano or a Daiwa, a nice brand, and you can really tell, it's like, wow, okay, this is nice. So stick with a name brand that it has a good warranty, and uh, don't buy something that's you're not sure of and that you're not going to like. Buy something you're going to like and that you can use. Um,
Yeah, and if you ever have questions or whatever on certain brands and stuff like that, come in here. Our
yes,
staff will definitely help you out. Line you out on what's what.
that's a great point. Um, we have we have an awesome selection of reels and some great people that really know what they're talking about when it comes to these reels. So um, pop out on the site and check them out because we have some fantastic stuff here. Fantastic stuff. But if you're starting out, I'd go with a bait caster. If you're just starting, you might as well start from the beginning, and that's right with the rod. That's what I'd start right there. Line. Okay. That's another thing is you go to a tackle shop, you got a whole wall of nothing but lines. And it's like you
Bit
got
overwhelming.
yeah, it's a little crazy. You're like, what's the difference between this stuff and that stuff? What's the difference between this and that? Well, there's basically three basic types. They have some other like nanofill and stuff like that, but these are the three that you're going to be working with the most, and they are monofilament, fluorocarbon, and braid. They all have different uses, um, where they excel in other places when other things don't. So choosing the line, okay, because it is overwhelming. You got to think of, all right, well, I should have put species first, but what am I fishing for? Am I fishing for largemouth? Am I fishing for smallmouth or spotted bass, which you don't really fish for up here? But which one am I fishing for? When you got that decided, well, I'm gonna go for largemouths. I'm gonna go for largemouths. And then I'd probably look. These are all the things that I'm gonna look for, but then I'm gonna also look for water clarity. What's my water clarity? What's my water clarity? Now, why your water clarity? Because if your water is as clear as that, like the St. Lawrence River or Ontario, you probably don't want to be throwing um, a big braid. I wouldn't do that. And um, if you are gonna fish really really clean water like that, and you want to use a braid, you have to use a leader. Um, Otherwise, it's you're just not going to be nearly as effective. So
Because
uh,
the fish can see your line.
yeah, it's visible. It's
Right.
highly visible,
In
and
muddy water, they can't see it as well, but in
yeah,
clear
they
water, they can
can't.
see it.
So this is a high vis. Actually, this is Invisibraid stealth braid, but I really like it because I can see it also, but they have a hard time seeing it. But I always have a leader tied. Um, and I think that's really important. So you got to be careful when you want to throw braid. I'll throw braid for most of the time. Um, Braid you're going to use for your power fishing, but yeah, water clarity, grade, it depends. Monofilament is more visual than fluorocarbon is. Um, so if you're going fishing for smallmouths at Ontario, you're not going to be using mono anyway unless you're using a top water. But mono is more visible than a fluorocarbon. So 90% of the time you're using a fluorocarbon at Ontario and stuff like that because of the water clarity and plus they're deep. But um, the structure, the structure is the actual bottom of the lake or the river. So it would be uh, what am I dragging over? Like, am I dragging over zebra mussels? Am I dragging over rocks? Or am I dragging over trees? Or what am I doing in cover? If I'm in trees, am I flipping trees? Or am I casting around trees? Or am I casting over lilies and chestnut weeds and all of these things are going to make you choose the line. Um, like if I'm going frogging in Ticonderoga on over chestnuts, I'm going to use a 50 or a 65-pound braid on a heavy bait caster. um, I'm not gonna go to the St. Lawrence and Clearwater with 65-pound braid. I'm just not gonna catch fish. It's just not gonna happen. Um, all of these things are gonna determine what line you want to use. Yeah. Now, let's do it. How can I explain this? Okay. And your presentation, your lures that you're gonna want to use. Okay. So, uh, fluorocarbons, monofilament floats. Okay. So with the monofilament, usually you're going to want to stick to top water baits, although you can use monofilament for just about anything. So monofilament's probably, if you're going to just pick up bass fishing, you're just starting, you don't want to buy a bunch of different lines. Monofilament's probably your best bet. I would start with a mono first. And when you get more comfortable, start seeing what lure is what and how it works, then you can experiment with your different kinds of line, but stick with a mono first if you're just starting. But a monofilament line, because it floats, you would use lures like a whopper popper or a frog, something like that.
Top water baits.
Yeah, top water baits. Yeah, fluorocarbons. Um, Fluorocarbons, you're going to want to use baits that sink. So, like your Senkos and your spinner baits, cheddar baits, crankbaits, all those things. You can rock those on fluorocarbon. The more you get into it and into it and into it, you're going to realize that fluorocarbon, I use fluorocarbon on probably 75% of my stuff, honestly.
That's what I was going to ask is what do you think like a standard, because somebody that's getting into bass fishing,
Yep.
like or somebody that maybe doesn't go and take it as seriously as some of the people that we know do, like
Yep.
yourself.
Yep.
They're just looking to maybe get out on the water for something that's a good all around, so they
Yep.
aren't afraid to catch this kind of fish or this kind of fish or this or
Right.
whatever. So
Yep. And if I was gonna give you a line like to start out with, like if you're gonna just normal everyday fishing, you're just starting out, I would recommend a 12 to 15-pound mono, honestly, and then go from there. Because mono you can use for anything. It's what we had before fluorocarbon ever came out, and mono was used for everything, and people still use it for everything. Um, Mono, see, there's ups and downs to mono, and there's ups and downs to all of them.
right.
But it's really gonna uh, depend on your lure choice. What lines you want to throw? I mean, what line you want to throw? But If you're going to start out, I'd stick with it. 12 to 15 pound mono would probably do you just fine. Unless you're gonna frog over some heavy weeds and uh, lilies and stuff like that, then you want to step it up a little bit here and there. Um, so, but like I said, the more experience you get, you gotta go fishing. The more you fish, you're gonna start noticing these subtle little things, and you're gonna be like, oh, well, I don't want to use that ever again,
Right.
you know. And I I don't know how many fish do you have to break off before you realize like, "Oh, I'm gonna stop using that stuff, and
Right.
switch over to something else." And none of these are really that bad. It was just a picture I had, but Trilene's is a
I
great,
got a question for you.
yeah.
How often should we switch out our line?
I switch. I'm gonna be honest. I switch every tournament. But
Somebody like, let's say, somebody that goes fishing a few times a year,
right.
something like that.
I would at least do. I guess there's no written rule. I guess it depends on how much you're fishing, but
And
um,
how rough the rocks and all that kind of
yeah,
stuff are.
it really depends, because some places are just really nasty, and you go through a lot of line with places with zebra mussels and stuff like that. Your line's constantly frayed, or if it's um, a lower pound test like 8 or 10 or something like that, you're constantly checking. Like the littlest thing could lose you a fish. So um, I lost track what we were talking about.
We were just talking about lines and like how often you should
Oh
switch.
yeah, how switch. So me, I do every tournament. Not everybody, not every tournament angler does that either, but me, just about every tournament, unless it's braid. But I would say um, a normal, regular fisherman could probably rock the same, probably 2 spools of braid the whole season. If I was just regularly fishing like twice a month, 3 times a month, whatever like that.
So I'm way overdue, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah. But if like mono and fluoro, like I'd want to change it 2 or 3 times a season, you know, at least,
Right.
because what ends up happening if you don't frequently check your stuff and retie your stuff is you end up losing the fish of a lifetime. And it happens all the time. It happens all the time. And it happens not to just me, Frank, you, Jeff, Melvin, Marvin, fuck everybody. It doesn't matter. It happens. It happens. And don't set yourself up for failure right off the get go. Like make sure, well, like I know I'm not losing a fish because of a nick today because I
Right.
checked it. Everything's good. And
So
that's
for an
something.
average person, at least every season, if not
Yeah, it's two
more
or
than
three
once,
times a season. I
a
would.
couple times, yeah.
Yeah, I would. I would. But the sun does crazy things, especially when it's hot out. And so yeah, change your lines and check your knots constantly. Um, I I retie either every fish or every couple fish. I retie
You're
because
talking about your baits and your lot.
yeah,
Your,
yep, I retie it because like I said, it happens all the time. People lose fish all the time. Frank, how many times during a tournament do you hear people after tournaments? How many fish I lost? I lost this. I lost that. I lost this. I broke this. I broke that.
you
I
hear a
broke
lot.
that. 30 or 40 people during a tournament. It happens all the time. So take the extra second, check your line, retie your baits, do it frequently. Because you don't know when that first bass is going to be. It could be on that broken line. When it's like the first time you set the hook on a bass, it could break. Just make sure you check all your stuff. Baits. Yes, when we were talking about knots, learn a couple of fast knots that you can tie quickly. A polymer is a quick, easy knot that everybody should know. Just look that up. It's super simple, super simple. An improved clinch knot is also pretty easy. With those two knots should get you through just about anything. Um, you should learn to tie a leader knot, which probably in Alberta is probably the easiest, even though people are going to tell you probably use the FG, but I don't recommend that to first.
That's the knot that ties the leader to the line.
Yes, yep, that's what you're going to eventually have to do, especially if you want to drop shot or anything like that. It's just a simple knot. Goes from your braid to your leader, which is usually fluorocarbon, sometimes mono, dependent.
Now, some people use the I don't know what you call it, the little like a swivel, but it has like the clip on it, and then you know what I'm talking about. I don't know
Yep.
what it's called.
And I just frown away from the swivels and stuff like that.
Does that
It's
ruin
like,
your reel?
yeah, like the more hardware I have in the water, less confident I feel.
Right.
So if I can deal without any extra, then I'd rather not. But in bass fishing, it's there's an incredible amount of baits and presentations. Like we were talking about, line baits is overwhelming. Um, I mean, even my basement. You go in my basement, and it would you'd crap yourself in how many baits I have down there. But it is things you need. Excuse me. We got finesse fishing, which is going to be with this guy right here most of the time, and we have some uh, things up there for you to look to read. Ned, which is this is a Ned rig. Ned rig. This is also a work for a drop shot, um, which is this is the oldest Cinco I've ever seen in my life, Frank. It's like crispy. this is this is a drop shot setup. This would be tied. This would be tied to the your end of your line. This is your hook here, and this is your weight. And this weight sits on the bottom, right here. And what you do, you just wiggle it around a little bit, wiggle it around a bit, and let it sit there. And this is incredibly effective uh, for any sort of fish. Honestly, there isn't anything that you can't catch in a drop shot. Good for a bite. It's good for a bite. It works everywhere. It works from here to Florida to over to the Red River in Louisiana to Texas. It works everywhere. To get comfortable using a drop shot, wacky rigs. That's another thing as far as finesse. See, if I was gonna just do away with this drop shot here, but you have this little hook, that's a wacky rig right here. This is a Cinco, a rubber bait. Um, this is an outstanding bait. You can throw this weighted or not weighted. Um, drop shot hooks. They make some that have a little head, weighted head, uh, which helps it sink a little bit faster. You can work it off the bottom. A little different presentation, but those are going to be some of your presentations as far as finesse rigs. You can also add in bring them, but little marabou jigs and stuff like that. Uh, that's what I'm talking about as far as finesse fishing goes. Those are some of the baits that you're going to want. Um, People throw those Senkos for on wacky rigs. You can do just about anything. But worms, uh, like a Zoom, what is it, trick worm, wacky rig, a Zoom trick worm every once in a while. Does something a little different. And we have some power fishing, different ways of power fishing. And there's all sorts of different things for that. Now, Power fishing can be anywhere from top water to on the bottom. So you're talking um, frogs, trims aren't tails aren't trimmed. This is brand new. Um, a jigs, crankbaits, a
What,
Texas.
what would you recommend for somebody starting off?
I'm going to recommend all these.
All of them all at once. Put
Yep.
them all the time.
You want these with you.
Okay.
You want these with you. These are like crucial things that you're going to need to bass fish. These are crucial. That's why I'm bringing them up. These are the baits you're going to want. These are what you're going to want. The crankbait, the frog, a jig, spinnerbait, some sort of Texas rig plastic or Carolina rigged. You can Texas rig it with a Carolina weight. um, and that's just basically the hooks ran through the nose and back through, just so it's weedless. But this is your Texas rig. This is you're going to be chucking this a lot. Texas rig, a jig, a spinnerbait, a vibrating jig, jerk bait. And I didn't know yet, which this is actually like we were talking about Texas. This is more like a creature bait, some sort, but they have craws and like you can Texas rig this Cinco too. People do it all the time, but Texas rig that Cinco as well. Um, all these baits you're going to want to have at some time. All these baits are going to catch you a bass. Depending on where you are, what time of year, one of these is going to work for something. It's going to work. Um, there, I mean, there's a reason why I brought every one of these because each one of them will catch a fish. So if you're not catching fish on these lures, then you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong because you can catch fish on all of these lures. It's just where you're fishing, what time you're fishing. Um, they're there. You can only catch fish that are there. You can't catch fish that aren't there. So you got to try to find. So, but these baits will catch you fish. You find a fish, these will catch them, depending on certain time of year, what they're feeding on, when they're feeding. These will catch you fish. Guarantee it. I guarantee it. Where to fish? Your skill level. Your skill level has a lot to do with everything. Okay. Um, if you're not that good, you probably don't want to put yourself in a tight situation. Uh, give yourself where you have some room to cast. You can work a little bit. Um, don't go into the don't go to a place where you know you're going to get frustrated because like I'm gonna get tangled all the time. I'm gonna have nothing but trouble. There's too many weeds or whatever. Get comfortable first with your equipment before you jump into something like that a little bit more serious. Go comfortable. Go to a dock where nobody's around and you can just learn to cast. You can learn to flip. Um, your skill. You got to keep fishing. You got to keep fishing. You got to keep working. You got to do it. You just got to keep going. You get frustrated, and that's normal. Work through the frustration and just keep going. Just keep going. What are you looking for? What are you looking for? Where am I fishing? Well, structure. Some people think structure cover are the same thing. Structure and cover aren't the same thing. What to look for? Structure is the bottom surface of the lake itself, or the river, whatever. It's the bottom surface. So we're looking for drop offs, flats, humps, rock piles, creek channels, points. And it's endless. It is endless. Um, the decision, the decisions. I'm getting overwhelmed thinking about all the
Yeah.
decisions that I have to make this weekend for practice. So I'm like, yeah, it's overwhelming. And you're looking for cover, okay? Like cover is the objects that are present within the body of water. So you're looking at trees, brush, laydowns, docks, bridges, milfoil, lily pads, etc. Goes on and on and on. Why?
Also known as fish paradise.
Habitat,
Habitat.
paradise, yeah, heaven, yeah, yeah. Some of them are a little bit better than others for some fish, I guess, but yeah.
Fish love cover.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They love their structure and they love their cover. And why are we doing that? Because Eric just said it. They love to be on this stuff. They are a fish that wants to be on it or around it. They want the structure. They want even the bottom surface makes a huge difference. They like hard bottom compared to soft bottom, kind of tend to go towards a hard bottom rather than a soft bottom. um, you got to put yourself in a position to catch fish, and your bass, these bass are going to be in these areas. Um, they're an instinctive fish, they're a predatory fish, and they migrate as well. So these are all things. So they're they're looking to ambush, to feed, obviously, and they migrate. So all and protection from the sun, people, other fishermen, other fish, all
Right.
these.
They don't want to be eaten either.
Right, right. So yeah, we caught a 1 pound 8 ounce smallmouth last year that had a duck down its throat. Like they're a predatory fish. They'll eat anything as long. Me and my buddies say it all the time. Is fish don't have mirrors, so they don't know how big they are. So they'll eat whatever is in front of them. If they think they can choke it down, they'll eat it. That's why we catch fish that are this big on lures that are
You'll
this
see a fish half digested hanging out of its mouth.
right, and they're still trying to eat something. Yep, yep. But that's why you're fishing these areas. They're there to feed. They're there to hide. They're they're using the bank as migratory markers. They could like so. There's currency. There's so much, but you want to put yourself in high percentage areas, and that's where these are going to be. Uh, that's where they're going to be. So set yourself up. Set yourself up to retrieve. Yeah, there's all sorts of different retrievals, and that's going to depend on what lure that you're using. Um, but slow rolling, like burning would mean I am cranking my reel. I am cranking my reel fast, and
Right.
that's often done with a spinner bait where you're burning so fast your blades are almost spitting out of the water and stuff. You can do that with chatterbaits, you can do that with crankbaits and everything. I mean, but you're burning, it means you're really laying into it. Slow rolling, which you do a lot with a chatterbait and a spinnerbait, stuff like that. And that's just when you're just barely moving the reel. And it's almost punishingly slow. um, Hopping, dragging, jerking, twitting. Hopping would just be, I would say, would be a motion, something like that. And dragging, that's just simple. You're just dragging behind it. Well, you can drag anywhere, but you're just dragging it along right across the bottom. Um, and that's usually a slow motion as well, very slow. Um, Jerking, which usually you do with a jerk bait, pretty self-explanatory. You find a cadence, jerk it a few times, stop, jerk it a few times, stop. That's usually a cadence somewhere around that. A jerk bait is not to be just steadily reeled. Um, Jerk bait, that's what I'm talking about. That's not made to be steadily reeled. It's made to reel down just a little bit, and then give it a series of jerks, and then stops, jerks, stops, pauses. Um,
I'd say look up too. You know, some of this stuff is as you go. You know what I mean? As you get more into each thing,
yep,
or you
yep.
get a new bait. You know what I mean? Check out some YouTube videos and kind of
That's what I was saying.
yeah,
Experiment,
right.
because like each one of these baits, uh, there's so many presentations that work on these baits. Um, like the way I throw this spinner bait isn't going to be the same way as Frank throws this spinner bait. It's not going to be the same way as you throw this spinner. We all have different styles, um, different cadences, and everything else like that. You have to experiment. You have to, because you could throw this lure your whole life and only be throwing it one way, never catch a fish. Be like, I can't catch a fish on that. Well, it's what you're doing. It's how you're doing it. Um, it's how you're doing it. So really experiment, work on each lure and how to use it properly. Um, the way actually is the best way to do it is take one lure with you, take one rod with you, and be like, okay, well, I'm gonna learn how to use this spinner bait, and that's all I'm doing all day is I'm gonna chuck the spinner bait, and I'm gonna learn how to use it any way I can. Every presentation I could possibly use with this thing, I'm gonna do it. And you do that with each lure, and you work on it, and you work, and you work on it, and that's how you get better. It just fishing. Everybody says it's easy, but it's not. It gets more complicated, more complicated, and more complicated. But once you start putting these little things together, everything starts to make sense, and everything starts to become a little bit easier on your game plan and what you need to be doing. But you really need to get out when you're first starting and get these lures and work on each one. Work on each one. Don't get discouraged right away if you're not catching fish. You will catch fish, but get your technique down first. Get your presentation down. When you get those presentations down and you can work through each presentation on that lure and completely single that lure out for the day, and then like, well, I did every presentation there was on that bait. They're not eating. And then, okay, well, I'll pick this one up then. And then I'm gonna work through each presentation. If I don't get bit, okay, well, I'm gonna go to this one and I'm gonna work through my presentations. If I don't get bit, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep moving on. I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna keep experimenting, and I'm gonna keep casting. Can't catch fish if your lure ain't in the water.
Best is when you catch something and you say, "Oh, finally, I figured it out. I got it." And then you go the next time casting and doing the same thing, and you can't catch anything, and you go, "Wait, so what did I do right?" That's like the always with fishing is like it's always this mentality of I got it right this time. I've got it figured out 10 seconds later. What the hell am I doing wrong?
That's fishing and not catching. You know, and it's like there's so many factors. There's so many factors, and that's what makes fishing fun and frustrating. Because, like you said, one day, like you get there and it's just lights out. You're like, man, I just caught them all day.
Yep,
Caught them all day.
I got it down now.
Yeah, I'm like, it's perfect. You know, it was. I'm like, I'm gonna go there tomorrow and I'm
Yep.
gonna smash them again. And it's gonna be awesome. You know, and you get to about noon and it's hot as heck and you haven't had a bite yet and you're like, what happened? What the heck happened here?
Or you get the chance of bringing a buddy with you, and then that's the time.
Yeah, and you're like, dude, like you won't believe the day that I had, or you
Yeah.
won't believe it. I'm
He's
like,
sitting there going, "Yeah, okay,
yeah,
buddy."
yeah, okay, yeah. And then you show up there, neither one of you get a bite all day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're full of crap. And I'm like,
Yeah, sweet
I'm
fishing
telling
spot, bud.
you. Yep. And there's a number of different things that could, the reason why they couldn't ate the day after.
Right.
There could have been a full moon the night before and they fed all night. They fed all night. They're not going to eat all day, you know. Or could be a moon phase, could be a different phase, and they're just not feeding. Could be that the bait that was in that area just isn't in that area because it got blown out
Right.
and they're just not there. It could be oxygen level in the bait that were there just aren't there anymore, or the fish that were there just weren't. Could be water temperature. In Florida, it was a big thing. It was like 3 degrees water temperature change overnight, and there was a big fish kill. You just couldn't believe it. Went in this canal, and there was just hundreds of dead bass
Oh
everywhere.
wow.
Hundreds of them. Couldn't believe it. It's like, oh my God, look at what the heck happened. Why is all these dead fish? What's going on? Well, it was that record low where it got down to like 58 or 60 degrees down in Florida. And it dropped the water in like 3 degrees overnight. And it killed, I don't know how many fish. It was unbelievable. Never seen it. It's like, oh my God, look at this.
Wow.
And there's giants. I mean, there's giants down there. And then just see them all dead, just floating there. And I was like, oh my God, look at these fish. I can't believe it. But oh, the things you see fishing, I mean, will keep you fishing. It will keep you fishing. Just keep fishing. And you will see the most amazing things. It's just unbelievable. I've seen moose. I've seen I've seen goats that shouldn't have been there on or fishing Lake Champlain, and there's these ledges, and been fishing there for about an hour, and all of a sudden I hear bah. I look up and there's a goat with a collar on. What the heck? This goat had been sitting there for I don't know how long watching us fish. You know, I don't know how many fish that he watched us land, but the goat was standing there the whole time trapped on this ledge for I don't know how long. But see crazy stuff. I see moose, seen mountain lion last year. I had to report um, manatees, alligators. I've seen so much stuff. Without fishing, I would have never seen it. I would have never seen it. Places fishing's brought me is just, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what it's brought me. So fish, bring your kids fishing. The bite, the bite, the bite, the bite. This is what everybody waits for is the bite. That's what we all, the fight is fun, but that bite is an adrenaline rush. It's like, oh, and it's instant. It's instant. Like moving baits, which would be like your spinner bait or your vibrating jig, a swim jig, um, a crankbait. Like this. This is a DT6er. These are all going to be easier to feel because obviously your bait's moving, and all of a sudden your rod just loads up, or you're going to feel an absolute smash, and you're like, oh, it's an instant. You know you have a fish. It's instant. Slow moving baits, those can be a little bit harder, especially with how finicky the fish can be. Um, jigs, man, jigs, the Ned rigs, anything on the bottom, sometimes Texas rig, when they the bites come in totally different ways. Like the fish down south, especially at Hartwell, I had to like feel them take it and then let them actually take line before I set the hook. They're very finicky about that. But slow moving baits, uh, you're going to feel like a bump, a tap, or a couple taps, and you don't, or it could be a smash, but there's going to be different bites. Like it's not like a moving bait. Uh, these bites are going to be different. You're gonna have to feel with your rod. You're feeling with your finger, and you can sometimes actually have to visually see your line moving because you can't even feel the bite. You don't even feel the bite sometimes. You just see your line moving. You're like, oh, okay, there's one on. Or you have the visual bite. which is going to be from your top water stuff. Which be like, this is a little whopper plopper here, and a frog. Like, you visually see these as well as feel them. This is steady retrieve, and when they eat this, it's obnoxious. Frank knows when they're eating this, it's an absolute smash. I mean, they come flying up out of the water, and I mean, it's a lot of fun top water baits. And I think anybody starting out, like first starting out, when they first get their first really good blow up and they're good fish, they talk about it forever. I caught this giant on this bait, blah blah blah. Like, they always have that story for the rest of their life. But the visual bites are a lot of fun because you can actually see it happening at the same time. You're seeing it and you're feeling it, and it's just, if I'm gonna do any sort of fishing, top water is probably my favorite, just because you can see it actually happening. It's a lot of fun, and when you can actually see it, see your bait, and you can see the fish and how the fish is reacting to the bait, then you can also dial in that bait even more. You know, like, oh well, I needed that bait. I was doing this with that bait when I got that bite. I was doing this when I got that bite, and I was fishing this specific spot at this time when I got that bite. Those are all things that you need to pick up on to continue your success. But identify it, identify your pattern. Biting the fish. So it's set the hook. So it's time to set the hook, right? It's time to set the hook, and you're setting the hook. You set the hook, right? Your tip up, if you can. Not all the time can you, but when you set the hook, you want your legs spread a little bit if you can, and you want to use your whole body. This isn't just your wrist or your arms. You want to get all your power. You're using your hips, you're using your legs, you're using your shoulders and your back. You're using your whole body. You're not just um these fish are strong. And these hooks that you use for a lot of these lures are no joke. And you really need to lay into some of these fish. Um, so make sure that you don't give it to them easy. Make sure you pop that hook right in there, and get a solid hook set. Um, but you need to do that. And that, you want to keep the pressure on, no slack line. Keep the pressure on. Keep your tip down, uh, as much as possible. And if your fish is going to go right, then you want to go left. And your fish is going
This
to
is
go left.
after we've set the hook. Once we've already got the fish on and we're starting to reel it in, we want to make sure that we're kind of pulling in the opposite direction the fish is going to keep that tension on the line.
Yep. You just want that hook staying pinned right there. So it, like, as much tension as you can keep on there, the better. As soon as you get that slack, it gives that hook room to fling all around everywhere. And if you can keep that pegged and tension on, that's how you're gonna land your fish. You get lucky when you're on slack line and you still land your fish. Sometimes you like, it's the lucky moment. But you want to keep the pressure on, tip down, especially if he's jumping in the air. uh, you'll see me in a boat a lot of the times, when as soon as they want to start jumping, I'll be down like this, and but you just want to counteract that fish, like like I was saying. If he's going right, I'm going left because I want that hook. If he's going I want to go the opposite way because I always want that tension on him. Always. As soon as you lose that tension, uh, you're gonna run into some problems.
Lose the fish.
Yep. Yep. You lose the fish.
Lose the
And
tension, lose the fish.
yep. And you never know. That could have been the fish of your life. You don't know. You don't know. So, and enjoy the fight. You guys aren't in a tournament. Enjoy the fight. play around with them for a little while. I don't get to. Us tournament guys, it's
You're
not about
cranking it in the boat as
it's
fast
not
as-
about playing. Yeah, it's about getting them in the boat, flipping them in the boat as fast as you possibly can. You guys are out to do this for fun. Like, if I was doing it for fun, I would take 10 minutes on a smallmouth. You know, I would. Or I'd take a couple minutes on a largemouth. I don't have that luxury. So telling you guys to do that. Enjoy it. Live the moment. Live the moment. Enjoy it. Spend it with somebody else. Let them watch. Hand the pole to your kid if he's there. Share the moment, man, and enjoy it. Uh, not many of us get to uh, really capitalize on this, especially this day and age. Not many people are capitalizing on what the world has to offer. And these lakes and these rivers up here are amazing, and it's enough to keep you fishing and keep you coming back and keep you coming back and coming back. And I just can't get enough. Just can't get enough. I put this up last one.
Never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game.
Yep, and that's like tough days. I've had them. I go fishing. I have all the right stuff. I've done all the right things. I feel like I've done all the right things. It just didn't happen. And that's called the grind. And that's called the grind. It happens to everyone. Do not get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. You got to keep fishing. Keep fishing, keep fishing, keep fishing, keep fishing. A lot of people quit before they ever got a chance to get good. They do. They get frustrated and they're just like, I don't want to. Nah, no. Well, there's a point in the game when everything changes. You're like, okay. So keep fishing, because you're gonna have that day when everything goes right, and you're gonna realize why you're doing it. You're gonna be like, well, this is why I do it. This is why I do it. So even if you have a tough day, don't give up. Even if you have a tough season, don't give up. Just keep fishing. It'll come. It'll come. It'll come. I have no regrets. 39 years of fishing, I don't regret one. So just keep fishing. That's just about it for me, Eric.
All right, sir. I don't have any questions myself.
No
I mean, I've
questions?
been asking the whole time. So.
Yeah. No, but I think that's about it. I just hope everybody keeps fishing, man. I hope
Yeah.
everybody fishes.
I think
Yeah.
the biggest is we go through all the details. You know, the biggest thing is really just getting out there.
Yeah.
You know, and fishing. I mean, if you had the wrong line and you fish, I mean, the worst comes to worst, you don't end up catching something.
Yep.
You know, or
Yep.
you end up losing your fish, which is not great. But I think the more things happen, the more you realize the details kind of keep you in that zone too.
Exactly. Yep. Like there's only so much I can say. Like, like I can give you all the knowledge in the world, and like I can tell you it all and I can give it to you, but without you going out and doing it, like I could tell you everything in the world, but without you actually experiencing it, you didn't learn it yet.
Right. All right. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Matt Belmore, yet
Thank
again.
you.
And this is your third one now, huh?
Yes, it is.
Wow. Crazy.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning in with us here at Fish 307. Again, if you guys have questions on any of this stuff, like rods, reels, and what have you, we do have pretty knowledgeable staff here. They can help you out, try to find exactly what you're looking for. Also, like we said, if you are looking for as far as like certain baits, certain things like that, you need to learn a little bit more. YouTube's a great thing. You can look into that stuff. But really, we just wanted to let you guys know, thanks again for tuning in to us. We do have another seminar next week. I'm not sure which one it is, but next Thursday. So we will be putting that out. And also we'll be putting this on our YouTube channel as well. So if you missed any of this, you can watch this video again, either on our Facebook or soon on our YouTube channel. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thanks, Frank. Thank you, Frank.
Good job, hon.
Thanks, babe. Thank you.